Well, hello, and I'm Bruce Hawley, president of the Circus Historical Society, and welcome to the 15th episode of Circus History Live. Circus History Live is produced by the Circus Historical Society monthly, and tonight's episode will feature three outstanding circus photographers, Paul Guthel, Jerry Cash, and Kirk Marsh. And now here's the host of Circus History Live, CHS Vice President, Chris Berry. Chris, it's your time.
Hey, baby.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. So we have a really interesting segment tonight. We do have a couple of
I
technical
can't
issues.
hear much.
If you could mute your if you could please mute your microphones. Thanks. Anyway, we have a very unique group of people that we're going to be talking to tonight. These are people who are photographers who really specialize on the circus. And I think that, you know, if you take a look back really at circus photography, and you should be able to see my screen now, I hope. What you're seeing right now, this is a photograph that Frederick Glazier took probably about 1900. And, you know, ever since photography has been sort of the opportunity to put cameras in the hands of photographers, we've had some excellent photography, whether it was Glazier, whether it was Joe Steinmetz down in Sarasota, who took a lot of pictures of the Ringling Winter Quarters and the people like that. But today we have three terrific photographers who are going to be joining us to talk a little bit about the work that they have done because of their passion for the circus. And we're going to kind of talk through this as though it's a day in the life of the circus. This first photograph here actually was taken by one of our participants' father. This was taken by Don Cash. And tell us a little bit about this picture, Jerry.
Okay, if it's the one I am thinking of, it's the midway of the Christiani Brothers Circus in August of 1959. And my dad was a friend of the Christiani family from his days on the circus in 34 and later years. So we had spent, they were in LA for 10 days, and we spent several days on the show. And that was basically the beginning of my being really, really interested in the circus. That was sort of the point that it all started for me.
Yeah, it's terrific. And that's really got you started in also model building. And I know that some of the folks on this call know that you, Jerry, are one of the preeminent West Coast model builders for sure. You know, when the circus came to town, obviously in the old days, it came, you know, by a train with parade wagons and things like that. And I know, Jerry, you made it to Wisconsin and got to see the Great Circus Parade train. And just kind of use that as a little bit of a setup here. And I'm going to keep going
Right.
because the next photograph here, I believe, was taken in the rail yards in Newark, New Jersey. Isn't that right?
Well, it's a lot, the backyard in Newark, yes.
Paul Guthel, who's
One of the
talking to.
final years of the show. I think that was 16.
And that's Paul Guthel, who is speaking to us right now about that picture that was taken, that photograph that was taken of the train unloading. So here's another one of your pictures, Paul. Tell us a little bit about you know, being down there on I guess that's probably 7th Avenue when the Elephants, the Blue Unit, came to town.
Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. I was in for a matinee show, but as usual, I got there early. And every Wednesday, when whatever unit it was played the Garden, Wednesday morning, I think it was 10:30, 11 o'clock, the entire elephant herd was walked completely around the block to give them some real exercise. And this is just one of those shots. I followed them around the whole block, and I should be doing that more these days.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a great photograph. About what year do you think that was taken, Paul?
Oh, this has got to be in the late 80s, I would think.
Yeah. So this next photograph, I think it's another one that Paul took. And I think, you know, it's interesting, whenever the circus would come to town, of course, at any time, they tried to get as much publicity as possible. Tell us what's going on in this picture here.
Oh, this was Bello and Bo, as you can tell, probably. And Rudy Giuliani, the mayor at the time, was very positive on circus. they issued a proclamation. They had Bello on Bo doing a hind leg stand. It was a big crowd. There were a lot of animal rights people there with all kinds of misinformation you wouldn't believe, but nobody paid any attention to them. That was a gratifying thing, because when I got there, I with everybody else, walked right past them, and they presented Rudy Giuliani with a ticket for, I don't know, 500 kids to see the circus for free, and underprivileged kids. And this is Rudy just shaking hands with Bo.
And, I think it's really important to notice and to talk about from a historical perspective, this 2001 Red Unit Circus, which was really kind of unique with both Bello Knock and this particular elephant, Bo. They were kind of a part of the show. And you remember seeing the show, Paul, I'm sure. I mean, they were a big part of the theme of the show is what I was getting at.
Oh, yes. And I'm sort of chuckling. Bello is, as we all know, just a wonderful person. Diane and I were at the show. He jumps off Bo, comes up to the seats, takes a camera off my neck, goes back in the ring, and took a picture of us in the seats from the elephant. And we're both just hysterical.
The three participants we have here, we talked a little bit about Jerry earlier and sort of his background. And now, Paul, of course, a big circus fan with an eye for the camera. But we also have Kirk Marsh on the call now too. And Kirk has actually got a little bit of a different perspective on things, because he was actually a clown on the Ringling Circus before he became really a very well-known photographer in show business circles. But the next photograph, as we go through the day here, Jerry, this is a picture of the Carson Barnes truck that is being pulled out of the mud by, looks like 3 elephants. Tell us a little bit about that photo.
Actually, it's 4 elephants. It was out in Rubidoux, Southern California. And I got out there in the morning and it was drizzly, it was cold, it was miserable. The lot was just muddy, as you can see. And it was not the best conditions for shooting. Excuse me. And there was a really heavy duty fog. It was really difficult to shoot anything. And this is a photograph is really one of my favorites, because it just typifies what happens on a circus morning. But I've never shown it, and I've never published it, and I've never put it on Facebook, because I felt that it was something that animal rights people could take and use in the wrong way. But it is really one of my favorite photographs.
Yeah, it's a terrific scene, typical of an early morning on a muddy lot, and I think you really captured the moment there. This next photograph shows, Kirk, this is one of yours, isn't it?
Kirk's muted.
Kirk, you may be muted right now.
I was there with all those people, so I may have taken that photograph with my iPhone. I'm not sure, but yeah, we were
so
there.
Is this on the Venardos Circus or?
Yeah, this is Venardos, and that's
and,
Alex
I
Petrov on the right. Yep.
I like to say the circus lives a lot of places, and whether it was the old Ringling, huge 6-pole, center pole, bale ring tents, or whether it's Circus Venardos, which Kevin Venardos calls, the little circus that could, it's really still a thrill to see a tent go up anywhere, I think. And you really captured the start of that. The next one, Jerry, is a picture that you took, and I believe this is maybe on James Brothers Circus, of an elephant pulling up the tent there. It's a push-pole tent.
If it's a red and white tent, it's Carson and Barnes, and it's out in Ventura, California in 1973. This is just the very beginning of the tent going up. Its first quarter poles, and to me, it was really cold, damp morning, and it was just I don't know, it's just typical of a circus morning. The elephants just waiting to go inside and pull up the tent, and some of the folks standing around just watching.
You know, the thing I really like about this photograph, and we see this in so many of yours, Jerry, is how you've incorporated the background. You know, I mean, it's a beautiful, you know, mountainside. The California clouds are huge, big, you know, cumulus clouds up there. Tell us a little bit about how you frame those photographs.
Well, in the beginning, I was taking pictures just to record what a circus looked like, and because I build miniatures to record how it worked. Then later on, I got the concept of I would like to take photographs. I was influenced by cinematography, and films like Shane, done by George Stevens with cinematographer Loyal Griggs. The images in that film, from the very first to the very last, these are pictures that are like paintings that move, and you don't need any dialogue. You know exactly what it's all about. So I've tried to take that concept into a lot of my photography so that it's sort of like a painting, and you look at it and you don't need an explanation. It just, everything is right there.
And I think it's important to note that both Jerry and his father were in the film industry in the Los Angeles area. So you definitely have an eye for that and know what great cinematography is. This next photograph is another one that you took. This one actually, I think, is James Brothers. There's a truck there that looks like it might have been a U-Haul truck at one point. There's guys out there. They're pounding steaks. Also in California, it looks like.
I don't know that's the only one I have of James Brothers is the one of the big top going up with all the guys pushing the poles, quarter poles in.
Okay. Well, this photograph, again, I think, you know, it's indicative of the way that they put up circus tents for decades, really centuries, I guess you could say, a couple of centuries. You've got 4 guys out there with sledgehammers and you know, quarter poles are starting to go up.
I know which one you're talking about now. That's Culpeper Merriweather, 1994. And to me, it's just the basic very small one-ring show with a few very small trucks, and the guys are just working like they did in 1800 to set it up.
So you're elevated in some way there. Where were you when you took that photo?
That was on a baseball field, and I was on top of the bleachers.
Oh, okay, great. Well, it definitely, once again, shows that scene so well. And then the next one is the one that I think was that James Brothers, where it shows the inside of the tent. They're starting to put some of the poles up, and there's probably about 10 guys that are in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's James Brothers in '68, and that's just, to me, the classic photograph of guys putting the tent together and, you know, putting quarter poles in place and waiting for the elephants to come and pull them up. Yep.
So this next one, and again, it's another one of Jerry's. This has got to be Carson and Barnes. It shows that rhinoceros they used in their menagerie, and there's an elephant and a camel there. So, you know, this is like the morning of the circus. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and I found this really fascinating. I mean, first of all, Carson and Barnes is one of the roughest shows to photograph, you know, coming in, because it's just like there's 1,000,001 things going on. But these guys were inside that cage with that rhinoceros, and the only thing that they used was that chain that you see going across by his horns to kind of hold him in place as they opened up that truck and they set up the cage around the outside. And I just found that fascinating, because the rhinoceros didn't seem to be that happy, and he was anxious to move beyond the chain.
Very interesting. This next photograph this is a photograph of Beatty Cole. I think that is this one yours?
Roberts Brothers.
Oh, it's Roberts Brothers. Yeah, my eyes were playing tricks on me.
New Hampshire.
Tell us a little about that, Paul.
This lot, I don't think a GPS could have gotten you to. It was way off in nowhere, but they got a good crowd. And ironically, at this show, Turtle Benson was working Lisa, the one elephant Roberts had for years. And people that were visiting beside Diane and myself was Buckles Woodcock, Johnny Piers, and a lot of you probably know, oh God, help me, Todd Robbins. Todd Robbins, who's doing an incredible job keeping the sideshow alive. But those three fellows were there, and Henry Bush was on the road with the show with Doris Earle. And as I said, it was very remote. It was down remote New England roads and whatnot, but boom, there it was. And they had as I recall, they had a full house. Brian LaPalme was the ringmaster. And I don't know if he wore it in the show, but he put on a ringmaster coat that Harold Ronk personally gave him.
Wow.
Which was, for me, a thrill, because I saw Harold Ronk numerous times. Just another wonderful person.
This next photograph I know means a lot to you too, Paul.
Yeah, that's my son at about 8. I'm sitting right here in Glen Rock, New Jersey, and that's Doremus Field, right 3/4 of a mile from here. And that was Hoxie Brothers, 1976. And they had elephants. I think Mike Cecere, was doing the cat act. And they had Mongo. And
Yeah,
that was probably the first time Glen Rock had a circus.
And
I've been
just-
in this town 72 years.
For the close observer here, I think that's actually Hoxie's Great American Circus, because
Yeah.
they don't have the purple trucks.
Oh no, the purple trucks are on the other side of the top. I should have sent you some photos of that. Buck Nolan was on that show.
All right.
And as I said, I think Cecere was doing the cat act.
So this next photograph shows the Beatty Cole, 4 center pole, big top. Jerry, you took this picture, and Beatty Cole doesn't come to California. How'd you get this?
Well, if we're talking about the blue and white big top, it's the opening stand in DeLand in 1993. And because we don't get very many shows out here, I have a tendency to just hop on a plane and go someplace, and where there's a circus, take pictures. So that was one of those weeks where I decided to take some time off, went to DeLand and covered the Beatty Cole opening.
So speaking of guys who are willing to get out to any circus they can, this is probably one of the most recent additions to the American circus scene, the Flip Circus. Paul, you were there in March. Tell us a little bit about this show.
Well, I was there for 6 shows. One of them happily with Bruce and Joe Barney. But I heard from Ramon Vasquez, who I've been acquainted with for a number of years. This was a brand new venture. The very first performance ever was March 4th of this year in Paramus, New Jersey, which, thank you God, was 3 miles from our front door. And like everything Vasquez does, it was just exceptional. The talent, no animals, thank you, New Jersey, but and very well attended. And the other show folks may remember, Circo Hermanos Vasquez, looks primarily, but not entirely, to Hispanic audiences, although you can enjoy any show they do without knowing any Spanish. But this show was geared more to a younger, much more diversified crowd, and they did very well, very well.
Jerry, this is a photograph here. There are a couple of children who are standing next to a spotted pony, I guess that is, and you can see some cage wagons behind some sidewall.
Yeah, that was the Duane Brothers Circus in Santa Monica in the early 1960s. And I thought that it was like very early in the morning. And I thought that was just so typical of the, the concept of kids just amazed at what's going on behind the sidewall. That's the Duane sideshow tent. And those are a couple of the cages that they had. And well, they weren't inside. They were sitting next to the tent and they were sidewalled. But I just love the fact that one little kid is just leaning while he's holding I think it's his brother's hand. He's just kind of leaning forward like, what can I see and what is inside there. To me, it's a perfect photograph of, the fun times that kids have.
So this next photo, Kirk, tell us a little bit about what you found when you were in Paris a couple of years ago.
So I was over in Paris to pick up my circus tent, and I got in contact with Sarah Hook, who was on the Ringling tour when I toured as a clown, and she did the Tigers over there. Saw her on the Tigers tour on Ringling, and she's been with Arlette Groos for many years now, and so she showed me around the lot. And so during Christmas time, there's 4 or 5 or 6 circuses that pop up in Paris, and Pinder and Arlette Groos are right next to each other. And then there's another couple of just a little ways away. It's pretty amazing. If you get a chance to be over there in November, December, it's just circus everywhere in Paris. It's incredible.
Yeah, to have 3 circuses in basically the same park, 2 of them right across the street from each other is pretty amazing.
It's unbelievable. It's so wonderful to see.
This next photograph, Jerry, it looks as though you were in maybe New England. There's some boats in the foreground.
Yeah, that's Reed Brothers Circus, 1995, and that's actually up in Oregon, obviously on the coast, because the lot is surrounded on 3 sides by water, and I just found it to be a fascinating photograph because of the location, and because there was a boat harbor where there were boats everywhere, and to me, it just, the hillside, the houses in the background, it's just something you don't see every day, and I found it to be a fascinating picture.
Yes, it is. It's beautiful. So the next one, Kirk, tell us a little bit about your time. I guess, is this Venardo's?
No, this is my show, Circus
Oh, this
Kirk.
is your show.
Yep. I started my show November 2019, and then sat down for a couple of years, waiting to come back. And so this is our show set up in Gulfport, Mississippi there. And those circus letters that are up top, I made in the garage with a friend of mine. And this was the first time that they had gone up, and I was so thrilled with the way that they looked up there. We had spent so much time, and I was using LED lights, and they were just such a big pain in the butt. And I finally got them working this town. So it was great.
So tell us a little about your show.
So my show is a small show. We've got a 21-meter tent, so about 70 feet across. And we have 6 performers total in the show. I perform clowning, and then there are 5 other performers. We got a ringmaster. We had Kristen Michelle Wilson, who was the first female ringmaster for Ringling. We had her just before this up in Michigan, which I was so thrilled. She was amazing. If you ever get a chance to talk to her, she's a gem of a human. We had an aerialist, Julie Marshall. We had foot juggling with Tanakaro, and we had a magician, and we had hand balancer, Joel Hersfeld. The magician was Sean Wilson, who, if you're a magic historian, it's Mark Wilson's granddaughter. So
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a great show. We had a lot of fun, and everybody was there again at this show, except for Kristen. She was already booked because she's incredible. So it's hard to book her.
This is such a great, cotton candy skies there.
Yeah. And this tent I got on that trip over to Paris.
Great.
And that's I bought it from Cirque Europa over there, who's a tiny little show like I wanted to create. So yeah.
Next photo, Jerry, is one of your European photos of Barham.
Oh, okay. I've been known for the concept of simply getting on a plane and taking off to go see shows. And I had wanted to see Ron Colley for years, so I decided one summer actually it was the early part of spring, to go to Europe, and we caught Barham in Heidelberg, Germany. And this was just very, very early in the morning, and I thought it was just with the clouds and everything, just a great setting. Also, Barham still was using old wagons that had been used, I think, for decades. And if you look at the photograph, you wouldn't be able to tell it was either 2000 or maybe 1970. So in that respect, I thought it was just a great picture.
Yes, it is. And then the next one, another one of yours, Jerry, shows the interior of a big top. You can see the Wheel of Death over there on the right. And what are we looking at? Is this Karsten Barnes?
Yeah, this is Carson and Barnes up in Ventura. That's 1995. And it's just, I liked it because number one, it's a huge tent, but also it's just the emptiness of the big top before the performance and before people come in. It's just a total different perspective of what the big top looks like.
So again, kind of going back to this theme that we have of, Circus Day, we've got the tents up now. We're waiting for the crowd. And this one here, I guess, is one of yours, Kirk.
Yeah, this is the interior of my show, Circus Kirkus, and we seat about 300 people. Those are the silks for the show. Little tiny backstage you can see in the back. Very quaint little show. We've improved it a little bit. This was one of the original times that we set up in 2019.
It's great. And then people have to come to the show and they have to buy their tickets. And Jerry Cash, you took a picture of that famous Beatty Cole ticket wagon. And it's set up and there's beautiful sky behind you. It looks kind of threatening, actually. But tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, that was my trip to Westchester, Pennsylvania. I flew out on a red eye from LA to Philadelphia. And I got there very early in the morning. I drove to Westchester and I spent the whole day watching the show set up and took pictures of the afternoon and evening show. And I like photographs of the show at dusk, just before the crowds start to get together. And to me, that's basically what this picture is. It's the evening, prior to the evening show. Not anybody really on the midway yet, but the lights are on, and it's just a great dusk sort of photograph.
And of course, this ticket wagon I mentioned earlier has quite a history behind it. It was on the old Sparks Railroad Circus of the 1940s. And then when the Clyde Beatty Circus went on rails in the 50s, it was carried there. And it continued to be used by the Beatty Cole Circus, well into the in 1990s. It's now at the Circus World Museum in Baraboo and probably will be restored at some point, although it's not in very good condition today. The next one is another one of yours, Jerry. This is another one of your European. This looks like it's in the backyard for Monty.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting morning. We got to the showgrounds, and there again, as you can see, the clouds are really dark. It had been raining all morning, and obviously I flew to Europe and didn't have that much time. And it's trying to take photographs in the rain is really not easy to do. Trying to change film in a camera when it's raining is not easy to do. Fortunately, by the time I got the car parked, got out, the rain had stopped. It was just like a little bit of a drizzle. And so I just was able to take photographs of this just looks like a really, really old European one-ring show. And so I was just able to take photographs of the wagons and the tents, and it's like stepping back in time.
Yeah, I mean, those shutters on that wagon look like they are used as shutters.
Yes, I believe they are.
The next one, this is one of Bernardo's that you took, right, Kirk?
Yeah, yep. This is, to be completely honest, I was on tour and I couldn't tell you where we were at that point. It was beautiful.
So I want to talk about the photography a little bit here. I mean,
Yeah.
It almost looks like it's a toy on the lot, How do you do that? Is this Photoshopped? How did you get it to look the way it does?
This is Photoshop. There's a way to do it without Photoshop. It's called a tilt shift lens. And if you can get a high angle and you can shoot with a tilt shift lens, you can get that blur that allows you to make it look like it's all toys. It's pretty amazing.
It really does. It's a terrific photo, and the way the sky looks at sunset too. The next one, Jerry, is one of yours. It's this one is Italia Hermanos, and the tent looks like it's probably seen better days, but there's a nice crowd on the midway.
Yeah, that was 1972. Bob and Polly McDougall were very close friends of ours. And I'd always wanted to see a Mexican show. And Bob was telling me that the Atari was going to play in Tijuana. So we took a trip down there, and I guess Bob must have known the folks who were running the show, because we were treated like royalty. And it was, I mean, it's like the shows back then in Mexico are quite different. And the performance was one of the best circus performances I have ever seen. And I've got a lot of pictures of it. I just didn't include any of those in this particular group. But it was a really wonderful day, and it was a great show.
Looks like it. The next one also is one of yours. It shows the Vargas Midway. You can see the mountains in the background, and that is California Circus for you.
Yeah, this is Vargas 74 in Burbank. And I kind of like this picture because in many ways, if you took the Vargas title away from the main entrance and you looked at it, and if let's say it was in black and white, you could say it was Downey Brothers or Russell Brothers or Wallace Brothers. It looks just like a circus would back in maybe the 30s or the 40s. Vargas was a very interesting show.
Yeah, this, and again, kind of continuing this thought that we're kind of working our way through the circus day. The next photograph that you took, it says Russell Brothers, world famous circus sideshow. Now that's not Russell Brothers. Tell us a little bit about that picture.
Okay, this is George Matthews Circus in 1972. And Ed Russell was a very good, very, very good friend of mine, just passed away recently. It was his sideshow on the George Matthews Circus. I took this picture because even back in those days, having a huge crowd like that waiting to go into the sideshow was reminiscent of something you'd see in Midway photographs of the 20s and the 30s, and not something you'd see in 1972. So I thought it was just a great picture from that respect.
Nice crowd there on the Midway too, as you said. The next one,
exactly.
The next one, this is Ward Hall on the stage there, right?
Yeah, it's Ward and Poobah, and on the far right is Ward's partner, Chris Christ.
Yep.
Al Stencil actually used that photo in one of his books.
And again, the sideshow is such an important part of the circus for so many years. You know, you rarely get to see pictures, especially inside the sideshow tent. But boy, you sure captured Ward Hall and Chris Christ and Poobah there for sure. The next one is a Jerry Cash picture. You know, if you're on the Midway and the show's about to start, you're at Beatty Cole, there are going to be some novelties. There are going to be, you know, whirlybirds and flags and hats and all kinds of stuff, right, Jerry?
Yeah, actually, this is another one of those pictures that I took at dusk, basically. It's very, very early evening. And I just like the idea that here you have this very exciting Midway where in a little bit of time, it's going to be just totally crowded. But at this moment, it's empty. And all you see are the lights on and everything that's going to be sold later on in maybe an hour or so.
Kirk, this is a photo. I think this was maybe taken on a carnival lot, right?
It was taken on a carnival lot. Was when I was with Venardos and we were playing at the fairgrounds out in California. That I wish I would have brushed up on all this stuff beforehand. I didn't send you any of these photos. So
yeah, I think this, I believe, couldn't this be maybe at the LA County Fair in Ontario?
It's not Ontario. No, he played another one.
Okay.
Starts with a B. Anyway, yeah, it's on a carnival lot. We were playing. The circus was at this fairgrounds performing. Yeah. We were doing shows, short shows.
Again, yep. just a terrific image there of what it looks like on the Midway and has for so many decades. Although somewhat vanishing. The next one is another black and white that you took, and it looks like it's going to be showtime before too long.
Yep, that's at the same spot, the Mystery California spot. I don't know how you other two guys are remembering like 1974. I can't. This was 3 years ago, and my mind's already blown. Like I got nothing. I know it was in California. So
the next photo is another one that you took, Jerry, on the Beatty Cole show. It looks as though, you know, the circus is going to be starting pretty soon. There's a group of horses that are under a kind of a canvas fly there up against the truck.
Yeah, that's Beatty Cole Deland, 1993. And there again, it's another one of my pictures. I like taking pictures at night and just at sunset. And I thought when I was a kid, my dad would take us to go see shows when they came to LA, but we always went at nighttime. And we always went through the backyard into Clown Alley and into the dressing tents. And that to me was just a really mysterious part of the circus. And for a little 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, that was really exciting. So a lot of times I like to take pictures that represent that past that I had.
So the circus is set up now. Paul, tell us about, it looks like there are a couple of circus owners that are pretty happy to have things ready to go.
Those are two of the most wonderful people in circus I have ever met. That's Al and Joyce Vidbell. They were both on Ringling Brothers for a number of years. And if you could ever sit next to Al Vidbell and Freddie Logan and listen to them talk about their days on Ringling, you'd wish you had a tape recorder. But they had Vidbell's Old Time Circus out for a little over 20 years. Their one granddaughter, Susie, brought it back for a couple of years after a while. But the original Vidbell's Old Time, they never had a cat act to my knowledge, but they always had elephants. They had castles, bears, some of the best clowning in the last half of the 20th century, and for my money.
Yeah, that was one of those great, small shows that was around for a long time. And fortunately, you were able to capture a lot of that on film. I love this picture, Paul, because as you can see, Paul has his fisheye lens and the show is about to start.
Yeah, that's the interior of Flip Circus. And if you look down from the pole in the center, you'll see a guy with a beige cap on. That's Joe Barney. And he's talking to Ramon Vasquez and Bruce Hawley.
That's great.
But
Great
this show never before seen, but apparently Vasquez's reputation from the big show, every show I saw was 3/4 to a straw house. And I saw six shows over the, I think it was about 6 weeks that were there.
Paul, did you take your photographs with film or with a digital camera?
Well, no, I only went digital in 2007.
So this is a digital photo.
Oh yeah.
Great. So this is now the performance has started, and Jerry, looks like there's a Liberty Horse act that's going on in the Vargas tent.
Yeah, this was Vargas in '84, and I just was sitting there thinking to myself when I was taking these pictures, that reminded me very much of The Greatest Show on Earth, the film, and the old John Ringling North days of the production of The Greatest Show on Earth. And that's kind of what I felt this picture represented.
Then the next one, Paul, this is a great photograph. That's Mark Gable, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And boy, you caught it right at the right moment.
This photograph got me a very nice Ringling Brothers jacket from Rick Boger, because Boger argued that this could be done. Mark could get a horse to do it, and they had no proof of it. So once Rick saw that photo, I saw him later on, and God bless him, I got a jacket out of it. But I love this photo. It's not, as the other gentleman I'm sure will attest, and this is with film, so it's not digital.
Did you use a flash there?
I don't think so, no. It was just good lighting.
I think this is one of yours, right, Kirk?
Yeah. This is Alyssa Marar, who was on the Venardos tour with us the first time that Kevin did an actual 3-month tour, his first run out there. And it is, again, out on tour. West Virginia, maybe, something like that. I'm sorry.
Here's one of yours, Paul.
Oh, the Anastasini brothers. I love that, the whole Anastasini family. I got photos of these guys when they were like 6, 7 years old, and their dad was just teaching them to do Risley. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's a great,
And
great picture of a great family act.
it was really an exceptional Risley act, very exceptional. Ha!
So
This is a one of a kind photo. Why is it one of a kind?
I'd say it's because, what was that, Buckles on the right there?
Yeah, Buckles is right behind Amy there. But this was, as I recall, dress rehearsal for the Big Apple in Walden. And Amy there just took a trunk full of water and let Bello have it. And they found out that she was blasting him with so much water, his makeup was all coming off. So instead of a bucket like they have on the table, they gave her a cup. And instead of blasting him, she sort of spritzed him.
That's a great action shot. Probably one of the best circus action shots I've seen.
Thank you. Yeah, God bless the Woodcocks.
And this one's on Hannaford, right?
Hannaford Salam Shrine in Sussex, New Jersey. I think the young man's name is Hector, but I'm not sure. I hope he'll forgive me. But he's the one who always told me to refer to him and his sister and so forth as the real Roto Hells. And they performed this act for a few years. I think it's long been retired now, but it was amazing.
Yeah, she's foot juggling head to head, and he's
Yes,
doing Bolobola. Pretty amazing. Next one, Jerry, is one of yours. We've got 3 elephants here. I think this is Beatty Cole, but I don't know for sure. Inside the Big Top.
Yes, Beatty Cole. It's an afternoon show, 76. And it's just, I don't know. I think it says what it is. It just, I was taking photographs of the performance that day, and that's, to me, just a classic circus photograph.
Yes, it is. The next one also is one of yours, Jerry, and I don't know who the performer is, but she is doing a trapeze act, and she's on her head, much in the same way you might see Holly in The Greatest Show on Earth.
Yeah, exactly. That's Vargas in 84. And I hate to admit this, but I was really bad at that time in keeping track of the names of the performers that I photographed. And so I don't know the name of that particular performer, but it was a neat act, and I thought that was a really nice picture.
Yes, it is. The next one, I think this is one of yours, Paul, and that's Gunther Gable-Williams, right?
Yes, that was the Madison Square Garden, and it was March of 1969.
Wow, first year.
Pardon?
The first year that Gunther was in the U.S.
Absolutely. And what got me about that was my first circus was Ringling in 48 at the Old Garden. So I saw people like Trevor Bale, Charlie Bauman, and so forth, Damu Dojer. They were all wonderful. But this show, I remember sitting there and just watching what Gunther did. And 3/4 of the way through the show, I just said to myself, my God, this man is wonderful. And as I'm sure most of you will remember, in the first half of the show, he did 14 leopards. The second half, he did 14 tigers. He also did a couple of dozen elephants, maybe a dozen Liberty horses. And I didn't send you any photos, but I have pictures of when he was inducted into the Madison Square Garden Walk of Fame. He's got a plaque on the floor. He has a record of the most consecutive performances without a break of just about anybody to appear at the Garden.
Yeah, that's interesting because obviously they've made a lot a lot of news recently about Billy Joel and his sort of residency at the Garden. Gunther Gable-Williams has him beat by a mile when you think of all of the performances that he gave at Madison Square Garden there on 8th Avenue. So this is another great picture that you took, Paul.
That's Jonathan Lee Iverson. Yeah, everything was just right for this photo, the lighting and so forth. And of course, they were doing the national anthem. I think that was also in Newark. They had a big thing to do. Ringling had not played Newark in 50 years. And
Wow.
I forget when, 14 or like 2014, 15, they came back and they made a big deal about it. And I think they did well at a brand new Prudential Center. I don't know if I'd want to go back to Newark anymore, but.
And you know, all three of you guys, obviously, you know, you have friends on the circus that allow you access. I mean, most people aren't going to get a picture that close to Jonathan Lee Iverson during a performance. So that says a lot about the three of you also.
Well, for myself, the wonders of the zoom lens are very helpful. But Chris, I'm glad you said that, because you are so right. My wife and I, were so privileged over the years to be given good seating, to be given access. I could not possibly thank everybody that was so good to us, but all I can say is it starts with somebody shoveling elephant poop all the way up to the Feld family and their employees. Just, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I thank them all from the bottom of my heart.
This next one, I think, is one of yours, Kirk.
Yeah, this was during rehearsal just recently. I was working with Misha Matoran in California, and we were all just doing a rehearsal at at Agua Caliente in one of their casinos, and this was earlier this year, actually.
Great lighting too. I mean, what a powerful photo.
Yeah,
the next one, Jerry is a woman on, this is Carson or Circus Vargas, and you've got a beautiful showgirl on an elephant.
Yeah, this picture is just, I have to be one of those who admits that sometimes you just get really, really lucky. And for me, just this photograph showing the face of the guy who is just so focused and concentrated on leading the elephant, and the smile on her face says everything. And that's just pure luck on my part to capture that instant. And it also is for me, a great example of why I never use flash, because I think the texture and the color and the quality of that picture works not having used flash.
That's a terrific picture. And this one, I think, is one of yours, Paul?
Yeah, that was Hannaford and White Plains about 5-6 years ago. The things that can happen on a show. I sent this to a few people and I labeled it Matt Eating Tiger. He just got his mouth on a ripple in the mat, and I don't know how long it took them before order was restored. It was all a lot of patience. Nobody really did anything, but anyway.
Well, and you know, even with house cats, when something like that would happen, anything could happen, right? You can tell the look on the other tigers' faces that they are kind of surprised by what's going on too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one, this is another one of yours, Paul.
Ada Smea, a wonderful, wonderful woman, and her son Brunon, thank God, is maybe got the only working tiger act in the country right now.
I think you're right.
But this was Wilkes-Barre years ago. That's Ringling.
Yep. This is, tell us a little bit. Is this the Cossack Act on Ringling?
I'm not sure who that is. It's just one of those shots.
Beautiful.
Like Jerry said, luck is a big word.
Well, I mean, the black background, the beautiful white horse, the costume, it just perfectly framed. That's a great picture, Paul.
Thank you.
Jerry, this next one, I believe is also on Vargas, and it's got a perch pole act, and she is pretty high up there.
Yeah, this was Vargas in '80, and yeah, it was a great act. And there again, I apologize because I didn't make note of the performers who were in this picture. But it just, to me, it's a great picture of that particular type of act.
Yes, it is. You got the whole thing there. And then the next one is a high wire act. Also, I don't think this could be Vargas, but I don't think so. High wire act. Three people on the high wire. Three people on the high wire.
Sitting in a chair.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a terrific photograph. Also, the canvas is kind of brown on top of it. But,
oh, excuse me. You know what? I got confused with the description that you gave. I'm sorry. High wire act is Vargas in '80. So, okay. Yeah, it's one of mine. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. Yeah, she's sitting on a chair, and again,
right.
Classic thrill act. I'm sure there was no net underneath.
Right, and the other one that you talked about before was Vargas in '84, and that was the perch pole act, and I got them mixed up. Sorry.
It's okay. I appreciate what you're doing without being able to see what you're talking about. Kirk, this is another one of yours.
Oh, that's mine.
Oh, yeah, I was like, that's definitely not mine.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Paul, it's yours.
That's Vivian Larible, who I personally tagged as the Sophia Loren of the circus on Ringling Brothers. She does, I think she still does, a fantastic Washington trapeze act.
I just worked with her last year, and she does. You're correct.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's good to know.
Great photograph of a great performer too. Next one, Jerry, is it's a flying trapeze act. I think it's on Beatty Cole, and it looks like they've just released, and he's headed back to the platform.
Yeah, it's Beatty Cole 76, and that's one of those photographs. I got to say, you get lucky sometimes, and the timing just was perfect on that, and particularly because I use film photography, so speed isn't that quick, and to catch a moment like that, I have to admit I get lucky.
So what is that, 400 speed, or what do you think you were using?
I was using ASA 200.
200, okay, interesting.
Yeah, which is really pushing it.
So, we talked about kind of the backyard area and sort of the mystery there. I see a photograph here, Jerry, that you took of an elephant, and there's a tiger on top of it.
Oh, yeah, that's Vargas in '80. And I don't normally take backyard photos, but I thought that was kind of neat. Just the idea that they're walking out of the performance, and just good picture.
Isn't that Rex Williams?
I believe it is.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
And then the next one shows the Vidbles. They are obviously very proud of the performance that's going on as you captured them from the back.
I don't mean to demean the phrase, but if you look up with it and for it in the dictionary, you got to see a picture of Alan Joyce. Everything, just love him to death.
So we're in the backyard now, and I've got a picture that you took. It looks like sort of in the cookhouse of Roncalli, Jerry.
Yeah, Roncalli is probably, in my opinion, the classiest circus in the world. And while we have what we refer to as midway diners, where you go and you get your hot dogs and whatnot, this is their restaurant. And on the inside of that wagon is a very small, it looks like a small European restaurant with little wooden tables. And on the outside is a seating area where you can sit as well. And it's like going to a small restaurant, and it sits on what in essence is their midway. And it just, to me, it represents how classy that show was.
Yes, it does. So we're backstage now. Kirk, tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here.
This is, oh yeah, This is this is that same show that the Rollabola artist was part of, and this is at the Agua Caliente Casino, and it is with Misha Matoran, who is Dreamcast Entertainment. And so we've got Riccardi and Tolga over on the left, and then we had 4 of the dancers that were in the show.
It's a great candid photograph, which really, the lighting is terrific, and you really captured a moment in time there. The next picture, Paul, this is one that you took. Is that Tommy?
It's Congo.
Oh, Congo, okay.
In the New Jersey Meadowlands Arena, got to be in the late 80s, early 90s. This elephant was the most amazing animal I have ever seen in the circus. I photographed for many years the unloading, and was lucky enough to be there to get shots like this. I never saw anybody, not that I saw everything, but I never saw anybody tell that elephant what to do. From the unloading to an event in Central Park, to this photo here where she's waiting to go into spec, I would swear on a Bible, she just knew what to do and when to do it.
And of course, under the expert guidance of Gunther Gable-Williams.
Yes, so that's his girl, yeah.
Yep. Is this the same group there, Kirk?
Yep, this is the same group. Tolga's on the left-hand side. This is Evgeny Vasilenko, who's got an amazing handstand. Well, he's got an amazing handstand, but he does it on a slack rope, which is so impressive to me. Always has been. He's got a great act, but it's backstage, Agua Caliente. Yep.
And then the next one is one that you took there, Paul.
That's New Hampshire, and that's Ned on the left and Amy on the right. Just
a great backyard photo of those 2 young elephants.
There's a poster out. I don't think I sent it to you, but it was about this year. And the poster is a drawing, and it says, for the Big Apple, our elephants are so close they can eat your popcorn. Which was true, because Buckles mentioned that when they came in to do a show, she tried to stop to get popcorn for people, and they had a trainer. You don't do that.
That's great. So there's one of our good friend, Mr. DeSantis, too.
Another fantastic clown, terrific person, and lights
Great DeSantis
out of circus world. See,
yes, and he has the.
I try to do a lot of personal stuff myself. I mean, everything from a woman, a lady expecting a baby, from birth, if you will, till some of them are now getting married themselves, the kids. But
and of course, Greg DeSantis has the International Clown Hall of Fame in Baraboo also. So if you get up there to Baraboo, you want to make sure you stop by there.
Absolutely, yes.
So this next photo, Jerry, is a photo of a Keystone Cop clown. Now, there have been several of these Keystone Clown cops. I can see the cannon, the Zacchini cannon in the background. Tell me what I'm looking at here.
Okay, that's Abe Goldstein, and this is the Dobridge Circus in about, I think, 1964. And they were at the sports arena in downtown Los Angeles. And he's just simply sitting and waiting to go on. They had a double cannon. It was a really, really good show. Dobridge put together a fantastic circus performance. And at the conclusion, they had a double cannon that fired in opposite directions on either side of the arena. I've got photographs of that, but I didn't include that in this group.
So Abe Goldstein, just for those who are on the call that may not know this, Abe Goldstein, obviously you can see he was elderly at the time that this photograph was taken, but he was one of the very early clowns on the John Robinson Circus, and even an American Circus Corporation show called How's Great London. And they had a baby hippopotamus on that show whose name was Victor. And basically, this is like 1922, 100 years ago. And so Abe Goldstein would walk around the hippodrome track, and this hippo would come around and, like kind of bite him as he's walking around. Very unusual act. There was a young man who was walking next to that hippopotamus, and it was Clyde Beatty. It was his very first appearance in the circus ring, was doing an act with Abe Goldstein. And Abe actually said that he gave him an extra $5 a week to help out. Next photograph, and I actually think she may be on the call. This is Vanessa Thomas, right, Paul?
Absolutely, the multi-talented, lovely Vanessa Thomas. She worked with the Woodcock Elephants on the Big Apple for a number of years. She just a dear friend and a wonderful person.
And this is such a great backyard photo too, because you can see the harnesses there, on the rack that they haven't been put on the animals yet, but they will be soon, or they just have been. Now we're going to get into the performers themselves. So tell me a little bit about this one, Paul.
Oh, this is just a happy camper. Thanks to Kay Rosaire, she was the first person, God knows how many years ago, that told me to come on down to the cage and just stick your lens right through and take some photos for me. And I said, well, what about the cats? She said, oh, they're okay. And I told Kay, I said, you're telling me they're okay. Do they know they're okay? But this, I think this is one of Brunon Blazak's guys. And
beautiful animal.
Yeah, I try to do portraits of animals too. I've used this a number of times in greeting cards.
Well, speaking of portraits,
Wow.
Kirk, I got to tell you, you excel when it comes to these portraits. And, in the history of show business, there have been a lot of great photographers, Maurice Seymour, Bloom out of Chicago. But I got to tell you, your stuff is fabulous. What are we looking at here?
So that's Gina Cristiani, and Gina Schwartzman Cristiani. She's a fantastic juggler. If you haven't seen her act, you haven't seen a great juggler. She's incredible. Her energy is absolutely astounding on stage. And the guy was a hired strongman to be part of the shoot for a photography workshop that I was teaching for Kelby One, which is a photography platform, a video platform online. And this was shot in Kevin's tent on the Venardo Circus. And the bull tub that's on the left is Kevin's from the show, and then the others are props that we brought in for that shoot.
How about this one?
And that's her again. And she does a lot of amazing work. If you don't know Gina, so she does amazing ball bouncing. She also does she does a lot of artwork, and she does so if you look at the upper right, you've got scissors because she makes tons of costumes, and then she does juggling, and then she does a hat spinning act, which is really, really cool as well. You don't see it very often at all.
Obviously, this is such a wonderful photograph for a juggling act. Your idea, her idea, somebody else?
I believe it was mine, but you never know. We collaborate on ideas, so I won't take full credit for it. She did it great. So
very, very memorable photo. As is this one, another juggling act, right?
Yep. And this is Keith Kaplan and Alyssa Marar. He does a Rollabola act, and they were leaving the Venardo show, and I wanted to capture portraits of them, and they're just great people. And so, yep, it was the last show.
Now this one here is kind of whimsical. Tell us about the great Kaplan.
The great Kaplan is David Kaplan, and he does an unbelievably amazing magic act. And he wanted to have all this stuff, just all the chaos going on, because his whole magic act is about his prop case falling apart and the sign falls off his case. And it's just chaos the whole time. There's a bowling ball that falls from the ceiling just through a bag. It's unbelievable. And he does a lot of really unique work and very funny comedy. So we wanted to capture all of those things in one shot.
And this one?
And this is Evgeny Vasilenko, the Slackwire artist that I was talking about earlier. And he does, his act is so high energy and everything like that. And he's got such great character on stage. I wanted to capture him, not necessarily in motion of his act. I just wanted the stillness of the performer, and that's really what I love to capture. And that circus tent is one that I pulled. It's a stock photo, so I couldn't even tell you what the circus tent is. So.
Well, it's great how you have really, I mean, this shows the art that you put into it also, because it's more than just a typical portrait, for sure, as is this one.
Yeah, and this is Dennis and Alyona. They're a Ukrainian circus duo that I worked with when I was performing on cruise ships. This was in Greece when we were working over there, and someone told us that there was an abandoned building 15-minute, 20-minute walk away from the ship. And so we walked through all these different places and found this old abandoned building, and Dennis climbed up and strung up the silks over. And there's another shot I don't think I sent you. It's 4 stories below her. So it's just this big hole in the middle of the building. And he put her up there and she was like, yeah, I'll climb on that. It's fine.
Here's another one.
This is at the Midnight Circus tent. It's Jan Dam and Ariel Ibasher. They have a little child now whose name is Timo. They're all adorable people. This is in 2014 at the Montreal Circus Festival. They have Compliment de Cirque or something like that. And it was a wonderful week of seeing all the new shows that were out. And this, why can't I think of her name right now?
Is that Bernardo's tent, or?
This is Bernardo's tent. This was when we were out in Seattle doing a show, and Gulia and Nelson Pivarol. This is Sasha Pivarol, and she was part of the show. We worked together when she first started doing her circus festivals back in 2008, when she was like 14 or 12 or something like that. And then we got to work together again in 2019, I believe it was, or would have been 2017, actually, 2018, when we worked together in Seattle or Tacoma.
Another great, beautiful photograph here of a contortionist.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Caitlin Reichel. We were in Orlando right at the end of the pandemic there, right before performances started to come back. And it was Todd Zimmerman was getting inducted in as the president of the local performance or the international. ILEA is the name of the organization. It's an events association, and he brought in all these acts that hadn't been working for the whole pandemic. And I was fortunate to perform, and Caitlin, and he brought in a bunch of other people that were really, really incredible performers. And since I had the chance, I took everybody and photographed them as much as possible.
It's great. Got a little bit of all right. And there's Jonathan.
That's Jonathan. When I was working with him also during the pandemic, the Kenny Mikey and Riley Rome, Page Turner Adventures put together a show on circus, and Jonathan was the host and I was the clown, and we got to do a bunch of different things. And when we were there, I got to take some photos of Jonathan.
Kevin.
And that's Kevin Bernardos. He was, this is also in Tacoma. We had no promo for the show or anything like that. And so I just started taking as many portraits as I could and churning them out and trying to take show photos and stuff like that.
Well, they're all terrific and they're all memorable. This next one, when I saw this, it was like, wow, what an unusual photograph.
Yeah. This is Shimtara Smith. She actually just got her aviation license, so she flies planes now. She's an incredible aerialist who does silk, and we were working in I think we were working in Mississippi somewhere, and we again found an abandoned building, and we just went out there and shot for probably 2-3 hours, just fiddling around trying to figure out fun shots, because we were both on the contract and bored. That's Caitlin Reichel again. So her parents and I met, Steve and Mary Reichel. They were clowns on Ringling when I was on Ringling in 2001. And then Caitlin grew up. So she started doing circus stuff as well. And she's a great performer, and I think she's going over to do her first European contract right now. So I'm very proud of her. That's awesome. And if you don't know who Adam Kukler is, he's one of the best cigar box jugglers in the world, I feel. And I also think that he's one of the funniest humans that I've ever met. He's one of the most sincere and amazing people. Adam, this is in the Bindlestiff Family Circus. They had a loft in Brooklyn for many years, and I wanted to photograph Adam, and so we went up to the top floor of this loft that was kind of an abandoned space, and we stacked his cigar boxes all over the place and moved him around. Another photograph, moved him another photograph, moved him another photograph. He doesn't actually have 8 million cigar boxes.
Got it.
That's Steve Smith, who you might know, Clown College dean for a long time and all around good human. This was in San Francisco at the San Francisco Circus Center, and it's a composite, obviously. But this is the ring around there is the stage piece that he has at the San Francisco Circus School, where he was working and where I was performing at the time.
Here's one of yours, Paul.
That's Joe and Betty Nord. They had Lancelot Link chimps for years. That's Radcliffe, aka Tootsie, and it was the King Arthur Duchek Circus that performed at the New Jersey Meadowlands Fair for a number of years. Joe gave me some very good advice about taking photos, by the way.
So here we've got two of the greatest jugglers of all time, Francis and Lottie Brun.
And so down to earth. But yes, they're actually, both of them are at rest with some of my relatives in a cemetery about 3 miles from me. But they were regulars. Well, Francis was still working. Lottie and her husband, Teddy Chiric, used to show up at like the Vid Bell show, Beatty Cole. I got a nice shot of Lottie with Jimmy James.
It's great.
Francis was on a show of Jack Benny show years ago.
So this is the Rick's act, right? The Bear Act.
This is the Big Bear Ranch
Rick's.
in Middletown, New York. And I said to Albert and Maria, I'd like to get a photo of you two together. This is as close as I got.
That's great, though. What a wonderful photograph of, really people who were involved with the Ringling Circus for many years with that Rick's Bear Act.
And actually,
and here's one of yours.
This is another. Sorry, do you want to finish up your thought?
Just strangely enough, I'm well acquainted with people at the Bronx Zoo, the New York Zoological Society. Albert Ricks supplied bears to more zoos in this country than anybody might know.
Is that right?
And the Bronx Zoo knew Albert Ricks, or the staff at the zoo knew Albert very well. That's all.
This is Kevin's tent when we were set up in St. Augustine. And then I went back and photographed this other bicyclist in a studio in San Antonio, Texas, and composited those together. And yeah, Kevin just got a lovely little setup.
Obviously, as with anything, the more you do it, the better you get. But how long does it take to put together this, concept to reality?
It just depends. Everything like this one probably took me 3-4 hours. And then there's always the tweaking that you end up doing afterwards where you're like, oh, I can't believe I missed that thing. And then you go back and you change one thing. And then once you change that thing, everything else falls apart. And then you have to go change more.
So this next photograph, this was a very historic night, right, Paul?
Yeah, that was
Nassau Coliseum, 2017.
Yes, absolutely. Something I thought I'd never see, but that's the Feld family obviously leaving the floor after Kenneth thanked everybody for coming to the very last performance of Ringling Brothers.
And now at the end of the circus day, it looks like, I assume this is the end of the day, the tent's coming down.
Yep. This was Circus Circus. This was in Gulfport as well. And yeah, we're taking down the tent. We just got the 6 quarter poles out, and we're going down.
And Paul, I think this is probably one of the most poignant photographs that I've ever seen. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This was in New Jersey about 2016, I think. The end of the 3-ring adventure, and I've always been drawn to elephants, so I wanted to get over there. And the hand on the right belongs to a little girl who was sitting on her father's shoulders, waving goodbye to the elephant. When I took this photo, I had no idea she was really waving goodbye.
Well, it just, you know, I love the photo for so many reasons, not only the historic nature of it, but also, you know, it shows you what the Ringling Circus looked like at that time. I mean, it just you know, the staging and everything. I mean, just really a unique experience for the audience also. So that concludes our program right now. I really want to thank everyone for joining us today, but I really especially want to thank Paul Guthel, Kirk Marsh, and of course, Jerry Cash for their expertise. And I want to thank you too for joining us today. This is a monthly program that the Circus Historical Society puts on. I hope you'll be able to join us again. And I hope you'll be able to join the Circus Historical Society if you're not already a member. The CHS has a lot of benefits. We have a quarterly publication, Bandwagon, which is filled with all kinds of historic information and photographs. And we also have conventions and things like that. We have one that is coming up next month, July of 2022. And there's still time to register. We're going to have a great time. We're going to go see a circus, and we're also going to have the opportunity to go to the Hartford Fire site, tour the Barnum Museum in Bridgeport, and even go over and have a tour of the old Barnum and Bailey winter quarters, what is left on that property over there in Bridgeport. So if you want more information on either joining or joining us in Bridgeport, I hope you'll come and see us at circushistory.org. Circushistory.org is the website. And Bruce, I will turn it back over to you at this time.
Well, thank you, Chris. And this was a wonderful program. And thank you, Paul and Kirk and Jerry for jumping in. This was very enjoyable. And thanks everybody in the audience for coming. We really appreciate this. And please do consider joining the CHS. It's a terrific organization. And we've been around 82 years. And some of you may know we recently put up about 75 years of our back issues of the Bandwagon on the Internet Archive. So if you're looking for information on circus history, please go to the Internet Archive. We have the Bandwagon magazine, a journal up there. So enjoy that. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you down the road. Good night.